My graduation dinner was supposed to be one of the happiest moments of my life. Years of sleepless nights, endless exams, part-time jobs, and studying until my eyes burned. All of it had led to this one evening. I thought my parents would finally say, "We're proud of you." But instead, they said the one sentence that shattered every piece of me. "We wish you were never born." It wasn't a joke. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was cold, sharp, and disgustingly clear. It happened because I didn't become what they wanted. I didn't follow the career they chose. I didn't obey the life they designed. At that table, in front of relatives, friends, and strangers, my own parents humiliated me like I was nothing but an accident they regretted. I sat there frozen, my heart screaming while my face stayed completely still. After years of emotional neglect, insults, and comparisons, that sentence was the final cut. And in that moment, something inside me switched off. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply stood up, pushed my chair back, and said one sentence that stunned the entire table. "Thank you for making it easy to walk away forever." They laughed. They thought I was being dramatic, immature, weak. They had no idea what I had been preparing. That night, while they returned home thinking they had won, I packed every piece of my life into 2 suitcases and left the country. Not for a trip, not for a break, not out of fear, but because the world had already given me something they never did. A chance. For 3 years, I worked harder than I ever had. Different country, different job, different people. No support, no family, no safety net. Just me. But day by day, I built myself. Brick by brick, skill by skill, failure by failure, and finally, success by success. 3 years later, I returned, not as the disappointment they insulted, but as the person they never imagined I could become. A successful professional, financially independent, mentally stronger, emotionally healed. I bought myself a house in cash, a car they once said I'd never be able to afford, a life they never believed I deserved. And then, one quiet afternoon, my parents showed up at my door, not with anger, not with authority, but with faces full of fear and regret. They had heard everything. My success, my achievements, my new life. And suddenly, the child they wished was never born was the only child doing better than all their expectations combined. They said, in trembling voices, "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you come home?" I looked at them, calmly, confidently, unbroken, and replied, "Because the day you said you wished I was never born, I decided to be reborn without you." They cried. They apologized. They begged. But I wasn't that hurt teenager anymore. I wasn't the child desperate for approval. I wasn't the mistake they once labeled me. I was someone who survived without them. I forgave them, for myself, not for them. But I never went back. Because sometimes, the people who give you life are the same people you must walk away from to actually live. And the thing that truly shocked them wasn't my success. It was the fact that I finally understood my worth. And I didn't need their permission to shine. After that night, when my parents threw their cruel words at me like knives, I didn't sleep. I packed silently, feeling nothing. No pain. No tears. Just a calm, icy emptiness that felt stronger than any anger. I booked the earliest flight out of the country with whatever savings I had from part-time jobs. It wasn't much, just enough to get me a one-way ticket and survive for a few weeks. But honestly, I didn't care. I had already lost everything that could hurt me. When the plane lifted off, I didn't look back. I didn't text. I didn't explain. I didn't apologize. I simply disappeared. My first year away was hell, but it changed me forever. When I arrived in a new country, reality hit hard. No friends. No family. No support. No money. I worked in a cafe during the day and cleaned offices at night. Sometimes I slept only 3 hours. Sometimes I didn't eat. Sometimes I questioned if leaving was a mistake. But every time I remembered their voices, "We wish you were never born," it sparked something inside me. I refused to fail. I refused to prove them right. So I started learning new skills online. Coding, graphic design, digital marketing, anything that could give me a better future. I would work for 14 hours, then study for 4 more. I didn't go to parties, didn't hang out, didn't waste a second. My loneliness became my fuel. Slowly, my life started to change. After months of non-stop effort, I got a small job at a tech startup. Not fancy, not high-paying, but it was the first time I walked into a place where people looked at me with respect. Not disappointment. My manager noticed how fast I learned, how hard I worked, how quietly I handled pressure. Within a year, I became one of the most reliable people on the team, and that's when everything shifted. Opportunity came, and I grabbed it with both hands. The startup got funding. New projects came. Bigger clients. Higher salaries. They needed someone dedicated, consistent, unbreakable. They chose me. My income tripled. My confidence grew. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the unwanted child. I felt valuable. I saved every cent. While other people my age were partying, I was building a future. While others bought new phones, I bought books. While others spent freely, I invested in myself. I kept getting promoted. I kept learning. I kept rising, silently, steadily. Meanwhile, my family's life was falling apart. I never contacted them, but news travels fast. A relative messaged me one day. Your parents are struggling. Debt issues. Business down. Your brother left home. They're arguing all the time. I didn't respond. Not because I hated them, but because I finally understood something. People who destroy your self-worth don't get to demand your support. Still, part of me felt sad. Not for them, but for the version of me that once believed they'd change. 3 years later, my biggest achievement. Finally, I reached a point where all those sleepless nights meant something. I bought my first home. In cash. A home that I earned. A home that didn't have shouting, insults, or fear. A home built from tears they never saw and strength they never believed I had. When I held the keys, I whispered to myself, I'm not who they said I was. But the real twist came soon after. One day my phone rang. It was an unknown number from back home. I answered out of curiosity. It was my mother. Her voice was shaky, small, nothing like the woman who insulted me at the dinner table. Can we talk? Please come home. We've made mistakes. Those words felt like a stranger speaking. Not my mother. I didn't say anything. I just listened. She said they heard about my success through relatives. They heard about my job, my house, my achievements. And suddenly, the child they dismissed became the child they wanted back. Not because they loved me, not because they changed, but because life had humbled them. She told me they were struggling financially, that they needed help, that they wanted to fix things. Fix things? How do you fix telling your own child they shouldn't exist? I didn't answer immediately. I simply said, I'll visit when I'm ready. When I finally went back, the shock was real. I returned months later. They looked older, weaker, quieter. Even my father, who once acted like the ruler of the world, looked fragile. My mother stared at me with eyes full of regret. But what shocked them was not my success. It was my calmness. I wasn't angry. I wasn't emotional. I wasn't desperate for love. I had built myself from zero. Their opinion no longer controlled me. Then came the moment they never expected. My father tried to start with excuses. We were stressed. We didn't mean it. You misunderstood. I didn't let him finish. For the first time in my life, I had the power. I said, You didn't break me. You taught me who I never want to become. They went silent. My mother cried. My father looked down, ashamed. They asked if I could help them financially. Not forcefully, not arrogantly, but desperately. I looked at them and realized something. I wasn't their scared, hurt child anymore. I was an adult who had survived without them. And they knew it. I didn't reject them out of revenge. And I didn't agree out of guilt. I simply said, before anything, we set boundaries. If you want me in your life, the insults end. The comparisons end. The disrespect ends. Forever. They nodded immediately, almost too quickly. Because now, they needed me more than I ever needed them. But the real revenge wasn't money. It was the fact that I stood there, calm, successful, unbroken, while they faced the consequences of the pain they caused. Their shock wasn't from my words, but from the realization that the child they thought was worthless was the only one who made it. And this time, I held the pen to write the ending. When I walked into my parents' living room again, it felt like returning to a place I once begged to escape. The walls were the same, the furniture the same, but I wasn't. They sat together on the couch, stiff, nervous, almost afraid to look me in the eyes. For a moment, none of us spoke. It was like the room was waiting to see who would break first. My mother finally whispered, "We didn't know you would change so much." I didn't respond with anger or pride. I simply said, "I changed the moment you told me I shouldn't have been born." The silence that followed was heavier than any insult they had ever thrown at me. My father rubbed his hands together, the same hands that once pointed at me with disappointment, the same hands that slammed doors in my face. But now they trembled. He said quietly, "We made a mistake. Many mistakes." I nodded. Maybe. But a mistake doesn't disappear just because you regret it. They both lowered their heads. It was strange. For the first time in my life, they looked small. Not powerful. Not controlling. Not superior. Just human. My mother tried again, her voice cracking. "We want you back in the family." I took a deep breath. Not because I was unsure, but because I finally understood that this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. I said slowly, "If I come back, it will be on my terms. No shouting. No insults. No guilt. You don't get to talk to me like I'm nothing ever again." They both nodded immediately, almost desperately. But I continued. "And understand this. I built this life without you. Everything I have today came from pain you gave me. So if you want me in your life now, you respect me the way you never did before." My father swallowed hard. My mother wiped her tears. There was no argument. No excuses. No defensiveness. For the first time ever, they listened. I stood up. I wasn't angry. I was calm, grounded, in control. Something I never thought I'd feel in this house. Before leaving, I said the last words they never expected. "You didn't lose me that night at the graduation dinner. You lost the version of me who needed your approval. The person standing here now? I don't live for your acceptance anymore." My mother cried harder. My father looked away, ashamed. I walked toward the door, not running, not escaping, not broken. Just done. At the doorway, I turned and added, "I didn't lose a family. I gained myself." And I walked out, not with bitterness, but with peace. Outside, the air felt lighter. My chest felt open. For the first time in years, I felt like I was breathing for myself. Not for their expectations, not for their approval, not for their love. Just me. I didn't look back. Not because I hated them, but because I finally knew my worth. And that was the ending they never expected. Not revenge, not anger, not punishment, but a new life where their words no longer controlled me.